Hello, dearest friends, beautiful souls of love and light. This is Minari, Princess of the Sea, coming to you with another video. And as you can see, I've got a bit of a paradox going on. Ron, you'll appreciate this since you're a paradox man. It's raining right now, and raining pretty hard, yet at the same moment the sun is appearing to come out. So it's quite appropriate that I'm doing this video right now, actually. And want to talk about a few things on the journey with you all, within acceptance. My last video for summer solstice, I explained things about what happened to me in what we call the earthly past. And I wouldn't say to me, but with me, in the sense of things that occurred in my life with my family and whatnot. And over the last couple of weeks, actually, before I even did the solstice video, there were a couple of things that were coming to me in regards to my family, my situation with my twin soul, and other signs that were coming that were pointing me in this direction to do this video. And yet I knew that I would do the video when it was the right moment. So evidently this is the right moment. And the things that I received was, I'll start out with something that happened a couple of weeks ago, actually. It was about 2 weeks ago that a group that I'm on Facebook, there was a gentleman who put a post on this group. It's all about the divine God and goddess coming together as one and in relationship. And that's this group. And this person had put this post on the group talking about self-love. And he had written that today he had to break away, that day, he had to break away from a relationship that was perfect in every way. They were completely, compatible in the sense of, affectionate and great communication, full of laughter and sweetness. The only difference was that there was a huge age difference, he being 51 and she being 27, and she wanted to go and have children. And he already has a daughter. And so he said in his message that he feels that he loves her and he really loves her and must give her the space to fulfill her heart's desire, for her to follow her heart. And he also felt that he wasn't showing up for her 100% perhaps because he did not share the same desire to have children that she did. So out of self-love and also love for her, he felt the need to not be in a sacred space of monogamy with her anymore, to allow her to follow her heart's desire while he follows his. And I thought that was very beautiful that he posted this onto the group. And there were various responses, that came from it, including my own. And the group leader had also said that this was an important subject to talk about. And part of my response was that yes, it is important to allow those we love to have the freedom to go their own journey, because freedom is the essence of love, and love is the essence of freedom. And the forum leader had made the group leader had made a reference to the fact about, sometimes you can remain friends. And it was clear by this person and myself of what we wrote that we could not just, stay friends. And so what I had written was what was coming in my heart, which is how I feel about my family and also about my twin soul. Which is the fact that, sometimes in relationships, no matter how spiritual or human you are, it's the balance of human and spiritual, as I explained in my previous video. There comes a point in time where you can no longer be friends with that person, if it's a romantic relationship, or be in communication with your family, or whatever the situation may be, because you're not meeting each other at the same resonance. You're on two different energetic vibrations, and it's as if you're on two different radio stations. Let's say you're over here on 100.7 and they're over there on 98.7, and you're broadcasting your stations, but neither one of you are hearing each other. And you can't just go back to being friends, and you can't just pretend that you're supposed to be something that you're not. And that's one of the gifts that I received in my relationship, my marriage with my former husband. I spent 20 years with a man, and in that time that I was married, I pretended to be someone who I was not, to try to quote unquote fit in. You know, I pretended not to be so spiritual. I pretended to just be a mom and a wife, and not really follow my heart's desire in certain ways. And in other ways I was, but in certain ways, as the core of who I am, especially in doing the spiritual work, you know, I often hid it. And I was in the what I call the spiritual closet, or what Spirit has given to me as the spiritual closet. And I was pretending to be something I was not. And so it's come to the point in my connection with my twin soul that, you know, he has said that he just wants to be light workers. And I can't go back to that. You know, we've had a very intimate connection. We are twin souls, and I can't go back there. I can't just pretend to be friends. And this came up again in a blog post from a gentleman who has a blog, who posted something related to this as well, saying that it was through his twin soul had kept coming back and forth to him. And it was only when she came back to him as friends that he was able to heal what was within him, so that now they are together. And so I explained to him that, you know, I can't go back to that. I learned that lesson, if you will, or that soul remembering, and I am to follow my heart. You know, I cannot pretend to just be friends. Now, yes, twin souls are friends. Twin souls are light workers. They are, in some cases, lovers, depending upon, you know, the situation. Some twin souls are not, and some twin souls are. However, in our case, as you've watched all the many videos that I've done, if you haven't, you know, please go back and watch them. They are in my playlist here on YouTube. But in going through that process of the last 5 years, we have had a very intimate, soulful connection first, and a very intimate telepathic connection as well, and a very intimate physical relationship as well. And so in those paradigms, I cannot just go back to and pretend that all we are is just friends or just light workers. And I told my twin soul this 3 years ago. I stood on his driveway exactly almost to the day 3 years ago and told him, look, I can't just be light workers with you. And he had a very forlorn face, you know, in realizing what that meant. And so in translating that into my family as well, I've come to understand that, you know, I haven't been in contact with my family because we're not on that same page. We're not on that same resonance. We're broadcasting different stations. And recently I came back into contact with my family. It had been 2.5, almost 3 years since I had really been in continuous contact. I had intermittent contact for a year before that, but it was very intermittent. And so the reason I had come back into contact with my family was because my dearest best friend, her mom had died a year ago, basically, this time last year. And so she had said to me, you know, how about you getting in contact with your family? And I had already come to a peace of mind with it. I had already come to the resonance, you know, in earthly terms, my family sees me as the weird one because I came out of the spiritual closet, you know. I'm spiritual and I come from a completely different resonance. So to them, I'm, you know, weird, I'm crazy, I'm wacko, I'm this, I'm that, you know, you know, don't take care of my family, I'm, you know, don't live in the real world, and, you know, all this other stuff. And so that's their choice. And I fully embrace where they're at on the journey, and I accept them in unconditional love and unconditional acceptance. And I had just chosen not to be in contact with them for that reason. But with the event of my best friend's mom's death, you know, I thought, okay, you know, even though I've come to peace at it, if I would, and I told her, I said, you know, if I were to get the phone call tomorrow that said, you know, my mom or my dad had passed, or, you know, something of that nature, that they had crossed over, I wouldn't be upset. Not because I don't care, not because I'm unfeeling or anything of that nature, but just because I had already grieved. I had already come to that place of acceptance on the journey. Went through the grieving process of, you know, quote unquote, from an earthly standpoint, losing my family. And really, out of that acceptance, coming to be my own father and my own mother within. And then in the outer experience, having my own spiritual family of spiritual brothers, spiritual sisters, my spiritual mom, you know, and whatnot, that keep me in a place of resonance of where I am and uplift me and hold me to the light, just as I do them. And it's not, you know, sticking my head in the sand or anything of that nature, you know, denying that shadow side. I embraced that shadow side. I experienced that shadow side and came to question myself and say, you know, hey, okay, my family's coming at me with all of this stuff, you know, saying that I'm this and I'm that. You know, is this really who I am? And I took a lot of deep time in those moments years ago to come into the resonance of no. They were showing me who I used to be. They were showing me the shadow of who I was and who I am no longer. And so I thanked them for the gift, and I came to that place of peaceful resonance. But in light of what happened with my best friend's mom crossing over, I thought, okay, you know, maybe things have changed. It's been 2.5, almost 3 years, and even for a year before that, intermittent contact. Maybe I'll touch base with them. So over Christmas holiday, this past holiday, I did so. And I had a very interesting conversation. At one point, my father even point blank said, you know, to me, hey, it's been 2.5, 3 years or whatever since we've talked to you, and just so you know, nothing's changed here. And so to me, that was a clue, a sign that said, you know, hey, he's saying it straight out, nothing's changed. So nothing's really changed. And so over the course of the last 6 months, things have progressively shown its colors in that sense, that in fact my family hasn't changed. And the truth is, their soul agreement, and I've always known this, their soul agreement is not to change. They will never step into the resonance that I'm in. They will never come in to understand the things spiritually and earthly that I do. And that's because that's their role. And so I understand that, and I've come to peace with it. And as a result, what came to me just recently, which was interesting, was an article that I had read, and then a dear friend of mine had posted it on her Facebook wall a few hours after I read it. So it was a sign to me that said, along with all these other signs that I received, that you know, this was the path that I was meant to go. And in this article, and I will leave the link for it here in this video description, it talks about the higher self, if you will, or the spiritual path, which is to simply walk away. And then confirmation of that also came within a video about mind control. And this is not mind control in the way you think it is, so I will also leave the link for that too. And this gentleman, Joel, was talking about the 3 levels of consciousness, if you will, or 3 levels of how we come into this world from an earthly perspective and a spiritual perspective, and how the mind deals with it, and not just the earthly mind, but the spiritual mind as well, the universal mind. And what he talked about is that, you know, basically from birth to about the age of 2, is we have this ability to just simply walk away from a situation that we don't resonate with, that we're free from resonating with. And we see this in nature, he pointed out in this video that he talks about, that we see this in nature as well. When a deer sees something that they determine as quote unquote dangerous or whatever, it simply just leaves. It simply walks away. It doesn't stand there and fight. It doesn't stand there and, you know, run away. It just simply walks away in a higher consciousness resonance to say, okay, this is something that really doesn't resonate. The energy for me is not there. I'm just going to leave the situation non-violently. Just leave, non-compliantly, not going to comply with the situation, just leave the situation. And then as children, we got taught from, basically the age of 2 to about, 8 to 10 or whatever, I think is what he says in his video, this gentleman named Joe, that we are taught that walking away isn't allowed. In other words, we then go into the fight or flight. And the fight or flight, what happens is that, like our parents, will see us walk away, and we'll, have our parents say, no, you don't get to walk away. You got to come back here, and you need to, stand for your punishment of what you did. And, there becomes this fight or flight. So then we learn the ego fight or flight. And then around the time of, 12 to 15 or whatever, as teenagers, we learned that fight or flight isn't even allowed. And we are then suppressed and depressed, and we go into what he calls a state of unconsciousness, in which we basically do drugs or alcohol or some form of unconscious behavior, addictive pattern that has us be in a resonance of, not being awake and not really caring. We become very apathetic. And so these are these three stages, and I've noticed that that's what happened with me, and that's what's happened with all of us. And he says this is what's happened with all of us. And really, to come to the core essence of who we are, of the infinite consciousness of who we are, is to come back to that resonant state of being that child. And I've said this in many videos, in the awe and the wonder of being childlike rather than childish. And to be childlike is to come back to that place that we were, not to act like a baby in the sense of birth to 2 years old, in that space, in that resonance, but to take on the characteristics of just being open and free in the moment, and what being in the moment really means. And so part of that means sometimes just walking away from a situation. You've told your truth, you've shared your truth and what you believe is the truth, perhaps from source, which is your truth in that moment. And if someone is free from resonating with it, then you just simply walk away. And you still hold to your truth because you're to follow your heart. And this article was a reflection and is a reflection of that. And again, I will put that in the video description here. And so it was a beautiful video, and beautiful video and a beautiful article that I read, and was confirmation of what was coming through. And then in having conversations with different people, coming to understand that this shift is about, really, as I've always said in all my videos, and is also in my second book, taking what resonates with you and leaving the rest. My book I published 7 years ago, my second book, Stepping into Spiritual Oneness, talks about this. It's what I embody, it's what I live, it's what I be. And I just had a recent conversation with someone in my life about that. Because he's struggling to go through some things, in his twin soul relationship, or what he may feel is or isn't his twin soul relationship, and with other people who are coming to him who he feels are trying to tell him what to do, and it upsets him. And he was basically questioning and saying, well, how can someone know what's in my heart? And so I was explaining to him that the Heart Math Institute does a lot of study in this, and it's something that's known as heart coherence or heart resonance. And I talked about this in my interview, my Lemurian interview, which I can leave the link for as well, that I just did recently. When we come into that heart coherence or that heart resonance space, we are able to tune into each other's heart, and that's also tuning into the universal heart or the universal mind. And so those people are reflecting to you part of or what is in your heart in some form or fashion. Now it's up to you ultimately to choose what's in your heart. And if that person who appears to be outside, which really isn't outside, it's just a mirror reflection of what's within you, is coming to you and saying something to you, they're just mirroring what is either in part or is in totality within your heart. And then you are to sit within it and say, okay, like I did with my family, or like I've done with my twin soul, and my twin soul has come to me and said, well, you're delusional, you're crazy, you're this. I've taken that within me and questioned myself and said, okay, am I really delusional? Or is what this person's saying to me really my heart? And if it is, then do I resonate with it? Is it something that I'm going to choose as my choice? And if it isn't, then you just let it go. You let it go by the wayside. And that's okay. It's just a checking in. It's a showing you of that mirror. And if you are tuned in enough, you can come into that place, that resonance. And so with my family, I have come into that resonance where I have said my piece. I have said what is in my heart, and I have now dropped contact with them. And I've come to that same place with my twin soul as well, to where we are really not in contact anymore. He says, we are not together. He says we're not in a relationship. He says he doesn't want a relationship. And I've basically said to him, okay, I accept that. I accept that that's where you are on the journey. However, in accepting that, I am asking you to accept where I am on the journey, which is the fact that I cannot just be light workers with you. I cannot just be friends with you. And if you do not want a relationship, then it's more advantageous for us not to be in contact. And so I've come into that understanding, because when we are tuned into our own intuition and we're following our heart, then no one can control you. And peace of mind comes from certainty. And if you know what is in your heart to be true and you are following that, then you are in that resonance of that pattern of certainty. And that's okay. And not everyone is going to resonate with you. Not everyone is going to be in that same resonance, in that same space. And there's a video, which I'm also going to post a link for in the video description as well, of David Icke's video. It's a wake-up video in which he talks about, how we've spent time deluding ourselves into hurting one another. And that because someone doesn't resonate with us, we have what I think he called internet wars or internet fights or whatever, where our only focus in life becomes to put down someone in anger and lash out at them and call them wrong and treat them, with such inhumanity as a result of not being in the same resonance. And he's basically saying, wake up, what are you doing? And I'm saying the same thing. Why do you want to go ahead and do that? Yes, you want to state the truth, as I have shared my truth and shared the truth of what I feel is the truth in my videos, and everybody does that. And in sharing the truth, that is what we're meant to do, is to follow our heart and share the truth. And yet we're not meant to put someone else down. It is the greatest gift of love that you can give, just as that person said on that group post. And so I give the greatest gift of love I can to my family and to my twin soul, to say, you resonate in another place than I do. That's fine. I give you the freedom, as I give myself the freedom, to have our own truths. We each have our own truths, and that's okay. And to live our life as we see fit. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm not here to tell you how to live or what to be. I'm here to tell you to follow your own heart. And so I love my twin soul enough to say, if this is what you feel, and this is the life you choose to live, then so be it. And it'll be without me. I still hold that resonance in that space, that if that ever shifts and changes, then maybe we can begin again. And I say the same thing to my family. If they ever shift in resonance, perhaps someday we could come back again. But as of right now, there can be no contact. And this person that was in that group wrote very poignantly, and I agree with what he wrote. He had said this: we all need to find what resonates with where we are in our current moment. And I want to express that for me, Love goes beyond my self-interest or what I want in the ways of comfort and satisfaction. If I can really love even my enemy, I think it is really beautiful. And surrendering to love without attachment allows me to surrender to truth while being in love. When we love ourselves, it doesn't matter if the other is not in integrity. Like loving our own child who fibs or cheats on a test, we love them unconditionally. I was married to a beautiful woman, and we shared a beautiful life. Eventually, our neglect to raw truth caught up with us, and things came up. I have moved on and wanted to share the deep beauty that is still present, but because of where she is situated, she is unable to meet me there. I accept where she is and love her from afar. And my truth is, I feel, what a waste of potential sharing. If she could leave her expectations and accept who we are in truth, without attachment, without ego, we could dance in such a beautiful and divine way. Ultimately, that is my wish for my family, and also with my twin soul. I wish that we could leave behind all those expectations and accept who we are in truth, without attachment, without ego, just sharing in a beautiful dance and being in the moment and what being in the moment really means. And being in the moment means that we're free from running, because oftentimes we run from the known. We run from the known because it's exposed so deeply within us that we are afraid of the known. So it appears to be overwhelming, and so we run from it. Being in the now really means to allow the unconditional love of who you are as consciousness to flow through you in the now moment, and to be present within this now moment. And you meeting life as it unfolds, just as it is, just being together in the moment, knowing who we are. Deep in my heart, I know my twin soul is my beloved sweet troubadour, and I am his princess. And if we were able to meet in that resonance, without expectation, just flowing in the moment and being in the moment with that, how beautiful it would be. Not seeing each other as right or wrong or good or bad, just being. And just like that with my family, accepting one another where we are on the journey. Mind only fights mind, as David Icke says. Consciousness doesn't fight. Consciousness just is. And so when we can be in the isness, and I am in that isness right now, I'm in that acceptance. I accept my family for who they are and where they are on the journey, and would desire to be in contact with them. And I accept my twin soul for where he is on the journey, and desire to be in contact with them and him. The only reason that I am not in contact with them is because they are unable to meet me in that resonance and accept me for who I am, and accept my truth and the truth as the truth. They are continuing the fight or flight in trying to fight me to say that I am wrong or that I'm bad or I'm delusional. And in that, I just simply say, that's your choice. You can resonate in that resonance, but I walk away from it. I walk away from it because I choose not to engage in it. And if someday, some way you wish to meet me in that same resonance, that same vibration, then we'll connect again. So in that, for all of you who are in your life, you have someone in your life that's happening with you. May this wisdom be a guide on your journey and help you, perhaps. I was reminded the other day of a song that I absolutely love by John Lennon, and it's called Watching the Wheels. And the lyrics are so apropos right now, and I'm going to share some of them with you. He says, people say I'm crazy doing what I'm doing. Well, they give me all kinds of warnings to save me from ruin. When I say that I'm okay, well, they look at me kind of strange. Surely you're not happy now, you no longer play the game. People say I'm lazy, dreaming my life away. Well, they give me all kinds of advice, designed to enlighten me. When I tell them that I'm doing fine watching shadows on the wall, don't you miss the big time, boy, you're no longer on the ball. I'm just sitting here watching the wheels go round and round. I really love to watch them roll. No longer riding on the merry-go-round. I just had to let it go. People asking questions, lost in confusion. Well, I tell them there's no problem, only solution. Well, they shake their heads and they look at me as if I've lost my mind. I tell them I'm in no hurry, there's no hurry. I'm just sitting here doing time. And really, John Lennon had it bang on. People do say I'm crazy. Had a dear friend of mine who was channeling me when she was writing a new song, and I talked about this in my Lemurian video just recently, the Lemurian interview that I did. And she had texted me a bunch of messages she was channeling, and she had said, you know, that her earthly self doesn't necessarily always understand my earthly self, but that her soul knows me and knows my grace and knows and understands, you know, my message, and that people may not be ready for me, that I'm ahead of my time. John Lennon was ahead of his time too, and I've said it throughout my whole entire video series. All of my videos on light workers, on twin souls, on everything. You know, people say I'm crazy doing what I'm doing. So be it. You know, they give me all kinds of advice, like John Lennon's saying, they give me all kinds of warnings to save me from ruin, all kinds of advice designed to enlighten me. You know, when I tell them that I'm okay, they look at you kind of strange and they think that you're crazy, and you're no longer on that hamster wheel. That's what he's saying. You know, no longer riding on the merry-go-round. You're no longer on that path of fight or flight. You're no longer on that path of unconsciousness, of, you know, doing some sort of addictive method, whether it's drugs or you know, whatever. You know, you're no longer in that. You're in that resonance of just simply being. And people think, you know, you're no longer playing the game. Well, you're no longer. You're not. You're not in the matrix anymore. You're not playing the game. You're no longer, you know, in that place, yet you still have a humanness about you. Yeah, you'll get angry, you know, and it's okay to get angry, you know, because anger is what brings about transformation. It's what brings about change, which is why I said to Ron, you know, you go in that video when I did for the solstice, you know, just because you're spiritual doesn't mean that you don't get angry. Anger brings about transformation. Getting passionate brings about transformation. The difference is that you just feel it full out like a child does, and then you come back into that resonance of love. You come back into that resonance of beingness. You don't stay there. Being on that merry-go-round that John Lennon's talking about is, you know, when you're no longer on that merry-go-round, oftentimes we repeat the same story over and over and over and over again, and we're attached to it and we hang on to it, and we see it as very real. Those are the stories that we're to let go. And as he's talking about at the end of the song, you know, he says, I just had to let it go. You do. You let go of those stories that no longer serve you. You can keep the stories that serve you. And those stories are the ones of love, the ones that I've shared, you know, in the videos that I have here about my twin soul, about the beautiful telepathic connection and energetic connection and physical connection that we've had and the deep love that is between us. Things I've shared about, you know, the good times with my family. I'm very blessed, you know, things weren't always so bad with my family. I was very blessed that my family gave me the gift of music and reminded me of the princess that I am through the heart of music. I got to experience some amazing musicals as a child that I would have never had the opportunity otherwise. I had some very amazing experiences growing up and being raised. And so, yes, you know, I hold on to those memories, not as in holding on to something as an attachment, but simply as in allowing it to flow and bring me back into that loving space, that loving resonance. That you let go of those stories that no longer serve you, that have you continue that wheel over and over and over again of pain and hurt, and you know, you just experience it full out and then you let it go. And John Lennon, you know, talking about, I tell them that there's no problems, only solutions. If you've all seen my videos, you know that. I did a video last summer about that, inspired by those exact words and Khalil Gibran's words. It's the wishing well video, I call it, because I've filmed it at my favorite wishing well. And it's called We Don't Own Anything. So you can look it up on my YouTube videos there. You know, people are asking questions, you know, lost in confusion, and there are no problems, only solutions, as John Lennon says. They shake their heads, and so if they shake their heads and look at you as if you've lost your mind, maybe you are ahead of your time. Maybe I'm ahead of my time, and that's okay. I know the world is ready for me, and those who resonate will come, and those who don't, that's okay too. And then there's those who don't resonate who come back too. Just to share a real quick story before I close this video out to you today. Back about, I think it was maybe 7 or 8 years ago now, I gave a reading to a woman who came to me for a reading. And unbeknownst to me, I did not know this. It was about, I think, 4 years ago, she recontacted me. When I sent her the reading, I never heard back from her. Never heard a thank you, never heard anything, and that was fine. That was okay. Sometimes I don't hear back, and that's all right too. And it wasn't until about 4 years ago that she contacted me, and she wrote me a very honest and real, raw, from the heart letter. And she said, you know, look, when you sent me that reading those years ago, I thought it was nuts. I didn't resonate with any of it. I thought it was crazy. And I just put it away on my hard drive and said, this is BS. And she continued on her letter and said that she had happened to be looking on her hard drive for something else, and she stumbled upon her reading that I gave her the 4 years before that. And she said upon reading it, it was like, boom, everything clicked. She was totally crying. It just totally hit. It totally resonated, and she was thanking me profusely. And she had also said, "I'm so sorry that, you know, I didn't, you know, get it then, you know." And I had written back to her and said, "You know, it's okay that you didn't get it then. You just weren't in a place to hear it, and that's all right. But now you are, and now you resonate with it, and now it hits." So sometimes people will say, and there's a quote, and I can't remember who it is, I think it's George Bernard Shaw, that says, all truths first begin as blasphemies. So sometimes a truth that's being said, you don't want to hear it, because to you it's blasphemous, and then you shift in resonance, and it shifts in resonance, and then you resonate with it, and it becomes your heart. And then you can go back and say, you know, what so-and-so said to me all those years ago, wow, that person was right. Not so much in righteousness, not being right as in righteousness, but in right in the sense that it now resonates in your heart as truth. We're always shifting and we're always changing. And I've written an article about this as well, and I'll see if I can find it and post it in the video description as well. When we come into, it was about surrender. When we come into what true surrender means and true acceptance means, we accept what is in this moment. And often our fear is that in accepting what is in this moment, that means it's that way forever. And I'm here to share with you that not necessarily is that always the case. In accepting what is now in this moment, you have the opportunity to rebirth and create anew. To create a new thought, to create a new heart resonance within you, and so do the other people in your lives, even if you're not in contact. And so something may change within them, and all of a sudden, because you let go, as John Lennon says, I just had to let it go at the end of the song, Watching the Wheels. In you letting it go, in you walking away, in you being that resonance still of who you are as your truth, they're going to pick up on that resonance, that energetic vibration, and they may come back into your life and resonate in that same space, just like that woman with the reading. And if they don't, that's okay too. Maybe they're not meant to. Just like my family, their soul agreement is that they're not going to shift, that they're here to provide me the opposite. And that's okay. I'm okay with that. And perhaps that soul agreement will change. Most soul agreements, when they are chosen before we come here, do not change. Especially when it comes to twin souls. Twin soul agreements are free from changing. Now, what does change in the time-space continuum is our ability in divine free choice to resonate with it or not resonate with it. Whatever that it is, whether it's a soul agreement or not. So I close this video with saying to you what I've always said: follow your heart. Even if outer resonances are coming to you as a mirror of your heart and saying things to you that you don't resonate with, that's okay. Honor them for where they are on the journey. State what's your truth and what you feel is the truth coming from source within you. And hold to that truth, free from being an attachment to that truth, just in an inner knowing. Like Gandhi. Gandhi had an inner knowing that the British would leave, and they would leave as friends. He wasn't saying that in an attachment or holding on to it. He was in a resonance of being, and I've said this often in my videos, it bears repeating again. There is attachment and there is detachment. And we go back and forth in a resonance of that. That's like the fight or flight. And as Rumi says, out between the right doings and the wrong doings, there's a field, I'll meet you there. That field is our consciousness. That field is our beingness. That field is what Joe was talking about coming into that place of where you are free to just walk away from something that doesn't resonate with you. You don't have to make a big deal about it. You just walk away. You say your truth, and then you just walk away in love, giving the greatest gift of love, as that gentleman said, and I will re-say it again. He said, I feel I really love her and must give her the space to fulfill her heart's desire. So I really love you, my twin soul. And I love you to give you the space to fill your heart's desire, wherever that may lead, even if it's not with me. And my family, I love you as well, all of you. And I love you to give you the space to fulfill your heart's desires, even if it's not with me. And to all of you who are watching this video, I love you all. And I love you all to give you the space to fulfill your heart's desire, wherever that may lead, even if it's not with me. I accept that. I accept you. I accept my twin soul. I accept my family. I accept all of you in unconditional love and unconditional acceptance, and honor where you are on the journey, even if it's free from resonating with my own. And I do know that heart to heart, soul to soul, that we telepathically and energetically and spiritually communicate all the time. And so we're in resonance together no matter what. And if physically we're meant to be in resonance and be together, then so we shall be. And if not, that is okay too. You always know that you are in my heart. Twin souls, there is no such thing as separation. Twin souls are always together. Family is always together. Family of origin and our spiritual family, our soul family. We are all one. We are all connected. We're all in that same heart resonance. I love you all. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for resonating with me. And thank you for if you don't resonate with me also. I accept it all. And I love it all. Spirit gave me a message many years ago. Anything you are free from loving, you will repeat again and again until you come to a resonance and space of love with it and within it. And so in my humanness and my spiritualness as one, I love it all. The good, the bad, the ugly, the right, the wrong, the up, the down, the sideways, everything that we call in duality, because duality is all a part of the one, and the one is part of duality. So I walk away in love, knowing that we are all still connected, we are still all one. In acceptance, to rebirth anew, whatever that vision is. I love you all. Spava.